Hello, everyone. Our guest today is Tevia Feng, a master Qigong instructor and the founder of White Tiger Qi Gong, which is a comprehensive medical Qigong based on ancient Taoist principles that uses modern sports science and anatomy to fit in this ancient practice in modern lifestyles. Tevia started Qigong martial arts and meditation training at the age of 7 and has spent his life traveling the world studying a variety of Qigong styles under a variety of masters and acquiring rare skills from unique breathing techniques and exercises to delving deeper into heart of Qi energy. Tivya has published 3 books on Qigong and has taught thousands of students ranging from professional athletes to martial art champions, Qigong practitioners, ballet dancers, corporate professionals, professional healthcare workers, fitness enthusiasts, biohackers, and even spiritual seekers. Tivya's mission is to open the pathways for people to ignite transformation and maximize potential, creating a movement of a shift in consciousness to create global healing. Tivia is considered one of the top Qigong instructors in Indonesia and has featured articles in the largest Qigong magazine of the world. He uses body, mind, breath, and movement as healing tools to deal with a variety of body-mind conditions. So welcome, Tivia, on the podcast, and I'm really excited and happy to have you here. A lot of questions around, of course, Qi, because physicality we all understand, but Qi is such a subtle aspect that, for a common man to understand Qi is not that easy. So thank you so much for being there. Tivia, before I actually delve deeper into my questions, out of curiosity, I would want to know that, you really wanted to be off video before we just thought of initiating this conversation. So is there a specific reason that you would want to be off video? Because a lot of people would really want to show up when it comes to being in conversations.
Well, I first want to thank you for inviting me to be on this podcast. I'm honored to be here and I'm happy to be a part of this. And so I wish to promote White Tiger Qi Gong, not promote myself, because my greatest wish is to grow and expand White Tiger Qi Gong across the world. I also am part of a Taoist sect where we take a vow not to ever become famous or to ever promote ourselves. So that's just my own personal practice. It's not what I recommend for everybody else, but it's just part of my practice that I'm with. But I'm really excited to be able to have the opportunity to share my experiences and about White Tiger Qi Gong.
Perfect, Tivia. Thank you so much. And we are definitely looking forward to that. And I think I must really appreciate that because, that kind of consciousness and awareness doesn't happen with a lot of people. Like, you really want to take forward the practice rather than your own being. So from there, Tivia, my first question is going to be, of course, first trying to understand your own story, how you got into Qigong and what has been your own personal Qigong journey.
Okay. Well, I got into Qigong when I was about 7 years old because I was born with chronic illness and my parents didn't want me to be on medication my whole life. They didn't want me to be in hospitals with doctors, and they wanted a natural way for me to be healthy and heal myself. So they got me into Qigong when I was just 7 years old. And that really set me on a path that has remained with me for the rest of my life. And the Qigong that I learned, it taught me how to strengthen my organs, concentrate my mind, change my entire character, refine my character, and always continuously improve my character, but also continuously refine my energy. And so I'm really grateful for it because now I'm not young anymore, but I still have incredible energy. My body is in great shape, and I feel very, very happy with and grateful in my life that I have this practice. So it's gotten me through everything from the deepest, turmoil and, tragedies in life, and broke me through that and remained as a staple in my life and as a center. Like it always remains my center and keeps me in my center. So no matter what happens in the roller coaster of life, as we all know now, life can be incredibly tumultuous. and up and down, dark and happy, dark and light. So yin and yang. And Qigong can help you get through all of those things as it's done for me. So I'm really grateful to have this practice in my life and to be able to share that.
Thank you so much. I mean, you just mentioned that you're no more young, but I would just want to mention that this podcast is all about ageless living. So, that's the reason we are just trying to wanting to get deeper into all these modalities, which are really, which have a huge contribution when it comes to being ageless or living ageless. So, biologically, I'm not very sure, but looking at you and the kind of practice that you follow, I must say, aging is something that doesn't show on you for sure. So, okay, Tevia, let's just start with the very basics. What is Qigong from a common man's understanding standpoint? Like, for you and for me who've been into this practice, like not this practice, but associated with somehow with the energy practices, still understand what life force is. And, but for a common man who actually doesn't have any direct connect or understanding of life force or Qi, how would you explain Qigong to that person?
Well, first we have to understand Qi, and Qi is simply just energy, but we can get energy from so many things. So you have energy from food, you have energy from the air. So when you take a breath in, like you're going to push something heavy, you take a breath in and that gives you energy. That oxygen gives you energy. And then, when you eat food, that food becomes energy in your body. So if you look at the traditional character for Qi, it's a rice kernel popping next to gas. And so you put 2 and 2 together and it creates combustion. It's like alchemy. And that's really all it is. So I put food in my body and that becomes Qi. I breathe air in, that becomes Qi. So that is simply what Qi is. And then Gong is the refined skill of working with energy. So once you get this energy in your body, then how can you direct it? How can you use it to your advantage? And Qigong gives this avenue to create it for really ultimate health and longevity. So, you also have to eat good and have good, and having good air is also important for good Qi. But then when you have your practice, that is how you take it to the next level and be able to get really good energy in your body. And then we can go much deeper from there.
Right. No,
that's
definitely
a basic explanation. Yeah.
That definitely makes sense. So, what I would really want to understand from a common man standpoint is that either we call it how Qigong works, or just to ask my question in an elaborate manner, how is physicality, because physicality is what a common man relates to in today's time. So how is physicality impacted by energy? Like, whether it be your health conditions, whether it be your, and anything, related to you at the physical front, how energy is backing all of that.
Okay. So what I do to relate it to the physical body is when let's look at fascia is the spidery, gluey, fibrous web that's underneath your skin that wraps around your bones and your organs, wraps around the muscle, becomes the bone. The bone is actually the hardest part of fascia. And this is a science that has been discovered, a short time ago. I mean, now it's been around for a little bit, but still it's relatively new. Mm-hmm. And what they found in fascia science is when you coil and uncoil the fascia, you generate electrical charges. Mm-hmm. And so when my master had told me, when you go tension to relaxation, yin to yang within the body, that generates Qi. So that's what I realized when it came to the physical body. That's what he was talking about, how you could feel the Qi is you're feeling these electrical charges surging through your body. And that's the catalyst for the movement of blood. So blood would not move without Qi, or this electricity that is moving through your body. And then you have these specific channels in your body, which in fascia terms, some call them the myofascial meridians, as Thomas Myers called them. In Chinese medicine, you call them meridians. In Qigong, we call them meridians. So these are literally connective tissue lines that run throughout the body that are energy pathways through which those electrical charges can flow. So one of the things that I found when working with a lot of ill patients was that they had stagnation in different parts of their body, usually in different organs or through different meridian pathways. And so when you have that stagnation, you cannot get good circulation and blood flow to that region of the body. And what happens is when you don't have that for a good period of time, you begin to decay in that area, or the fascia can harden and become more plastic and you become more rigid. So a prime example of that is how most of us, sit in chairs all day long. But the difference between, say, someone who does a movement practice like Qigong is they get up and they move that area and they unwind all the knots in the back. Whereas the other person who leads a sedentary lifestyle, they'll sit all day after they've been sitting already all day at work, and then they'll go home and sit more, and they'll get back pain. And that will start to harden the fascia there and become more stiff. And then that over time grows and grows and grows. And that affects the organs, the kidneys in particular, as that's in the lower back. And then they develop postural problems and so on and so forth. So that is why Qigong is important for the physical body, because also the physical body is also tied into the emotions as well.
Mm-hmm. So since we are talking of fascia, I think I would want to delve a little deeper into understanding what fascia is. Of course, since I'm studying Qigong with you, I have gotten a little understanding about what fascia is. But for the listeners, let's just start with the very basics. The question that I would want to know is, what is fascia network, its connection with the muscles, emotions, and its role in agelessness, or agelessness of the spine, rather. I think that would be a better question.
Yeah, well, just like I was mentioning before, that's the spidery, gluey, fibrous web underneath the skin that wraps around the organs and the bones and becomes the bone. And that fascia, when you're born, your fascia is very malleable. It's very flexible and elastic. You watch a baby can roll into a split and arch their back as if they have no spine, it looks like.
Right.
But as we age, that fascia hardens more and more. What White Tiger Qigong does is it keeps the fascia malleable and elastic, and we create what I call the bamboo body. And that is, it's flexible yet firm and has that elastic snap to it. And that elasticity, keeping elasticity in the fascia, has now been shown to be a key to longevity. And that's why this practice is so important for your longevity. So you keep this elasticity rather than that plastic hardening that can happen as we age. Because if you look at the flip side of a baby, the flip side is someone who's elderly and can barely move, and where they need a wheelchair to move, and they've lost all the elasticity in their body. So these old Qigong masters, one of their key secrets to longevity is keeping that elasticity in their fascia. So there's a saying in China that in amongst Qigong circles, that you don't judge the person's age by their face. We often in modern society, we look at someone's face to judge their age. You judge their age by their spine. Mm-hmm. How good is their spine? And that will dictate their true age.
Okay. So no, I guess that's very true what you mentioned. But that brings me to another question. Now that it's been found that fascia is so important, and it's the fascia network that actually regulates all of the other things, whether it be emotions, whether it be deeper level health conditions happening within our body. Why has the science been so unexplored till now? And what made it come to the surface now, or maybe a few years back?
Well, first off, we were stuck on traditional anatomy maps, which showed these isolated muscles and bones, and no one, veered off that path. But as we've done a lot of dissection of cadavers, people have found that there's this tissue that's underneath, and that tissue is very complex. People used to think it was just some waste matter like filler, which is almost funny to me, but that they could think that. They would actually toss that out when they were dissecting cadavers and put it aside. Whereas some people who were dissecting cadavers started to explore this fascia even deeper and found it had incredible qualities, and it was the glue that holds us all together. And without it, we would fall apart. So as people started delving into that more through dissection of cadavers, they started creating a science based around that. And now it's actually, the fascia world is flourishing, and it's growing exponentially in terms of people who are engaged in fascia research. And the amount of fascia research has grown so much in just the past several years. And you have fascia committees now, and big groups, and you have all types of free online dissections that you can watch. So it's for me, it's quite exciting, because it lends a whole new way to look at the human body.
Yes, I must, again, I got exposed to this as a part of one of my trainings in yin yoga, but that was a very brief introduction about fascia. But as I got deeper into the course that I'm taking up at White Tiger Qi Gong, and, the specific course about fascia in there, I actually realized, if we start to understand fascia and start to work on that aspect of ourselves, how beautifully we can just take care of our body, mind, everything all together. It's just about that, keeping that aspect of us understanding and keeping it much more elastic and flexible. So that's where, and that's the reason I got a little more conviction into this kind of a practice, how it can be so powerful for any kind of health condition that we come across. But I'll ask you that question later. I do have that question. I'll just go sequentially, starting with, this the space that we are in, or the podcast that we are doing, is about ageless living. And it is, though you've already answered that, but I would just want to delve a little deeper into this question. It is said that agelessness resides in your spine, as you just mentioned, like looking at the spine, somebody can figure out how aged you are. So how is this true from the Qigong perspective, from the practice of Qigong perspective?
How is the ageless spine true from the Qigong perspective?
Yes.
So basically, around your spine is fascia, and that fascia can hold that spine together. Now it can harden around the spine, or it can soften around the spine. Now, if you keep it soft and limber and loose, but yet elastic, so you can overstretch fascia, and then it becomes too loose, and then you lose that elasticity. That was why there was some people in that world who, as they aged and still stretched too much, they complained that they couldn't stretch anymore because they had actually lost all the elasticity in their fascia. But you can, if you have the right amount of balance between strengthening and stretching, that's why Qigong is like a dynamic strengthening stretch. So it strengthens the fascia, but yet it also dynamically stretches the fascia as well. So that's why you get this bamboo body-like effect. And so around your spine, you'll be able to keep your back upright and keep really good posture, but yet be soft and limber, that you can go into any type of movement very easily. And so you want to keep that spine very, very nice and loose. Just ask anyone who suffers from back pain who can't move. I was just working with a student last weekend. He's only 35 years old, but he hasn't taken care of himself, and his back gets so jacked up in pain that he can barely move, and he can't even touch his knees because he has so much pain.
And I believe that's a common scenario with everybody doing, specifically the way pandemic happened and it was more of a sedentary lifestyle, specifically for the people incorporates or having that sedentary kind of work profile. It became even more, the lifestyle even became more sedentary as compared to previously how it was. So I guess that's where it, that really makes sense, what you just mentioned. But Divya, I think I would want to get a little more deeper into this, since we are talking of spine. For the people who have spinal related disorders, and where am I coming from, I'll give you the context also. So recently I was practicing an advanced yoga posture, and I have been doing this for last 6-7 years. And it was a headstand. I do it very nicely. I have all that balance and everything. um, I just ended up having a neck and a shoulder injury. I don't know whether it happened because of that posture or a practice, because I was very well into that practice. I completed my 1 hour of practice. I came back after 10 hours of practice, somewhere around 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. I started having some pain in my neck, and this pain traversed to my shoulder and coming down towards my right arm. I did not realize what it is, because it was for the first time I experienced anything related to spine. I tried alternate, I tried homeopathy, didn't work out. And then I tried figuring out, what is it, because the practice did not, at that point in time, did not give me any kind of a trouble. I was very comfortable and completely out of it. I did it very subtly. But this pain lasted me for about 15 days. And it was like nightmare, because I wasn't able to sleep. There was no position that my hand was setting in. And when I got it investigated, it was figured out as something called cervical radiculopathy. I think I'm pronouncing it right. So, and it came as a surprise to me also, because I have been working on my spine for quite some time, and I was very comfortable in my practice. How could that happen? And on top of it, I have now been advised to not get into all these advanced postures for a lifetime. So, that's where I'm coming from, to understand somebody who has any kind of developed any kind of spine issues. How true is that once it's gone, it's gone. Like you cannot get back into your practices again. I would not want to believe this, because I have heard your stories and how you could actually get your spine corrected without any surgery in the past. So what's your take on that?
Well, first off, from a Qigong perspective, we never go into extremes. So we try to look for balance. And we never go, so going into these extreme postures, you could be lucky and you could be okay. And there are people who can do it and they're fine. And then there's the rest of us who cannot, because it will cause damage. I'll give you an example. I was doing a training where they were pushing us into splits, and I developed severe hip pain. And it lasts after 6 months of hip pain. I went to a sports medicine hospital, and they did an X-ray, and they said that you should not be doing splits because you're actually grinding the femur against the hip bone. So okay. I was actually grinding away the bone by trying to attempt to do something. So that got me into the whole concept of the bones and joints and how the bones develop differently in different bodies. Right. And if you try to mimic another person's extreme posture, you could actually be doing real damage to your body if you don't understand its limitations, its natural limitations. Because I hear people say, "Oh, you don't believe that everybody can do the same kind of postures." No, I don't, because because I've seen the bones and the joints, the way they develop in different bodies, and they are so dramatically different from one body to the next. So trying to replicate a movement or a posture that somebody else done in an extreme position could be potentially dangerous, like it was for me. I stopped doing those splits and my hip pain went away. And then I realized the concept of skeletability versus flexibility. Okay. And so Qigong offers sort of a middle pathway where you don't go for extremes, but you will always gradually refine your limitations gradually. So if you find a limitation, you'll go to where where you meet that limitation, and you'll try to gradually open it. And if you can't, then you've reached your skeletability, where the joints are actually grinding against each other, or you have bone on bone, and which you don't want to do. So, but you'll feel that, and you'll feel that pinching sensation, or that full stop, as opposed to flexibility, which we can open up more and more and keep that very open. So I test the bounds of my flexibility with Qigong without going to extremes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely that makes sense, because that's what even I realized, because initially we were taught that there's something called a good pain and a bad pain. So I guess this boils down to what you are also saying, that each person has their own limitation, and you actually realize when you start to get that bad pain, you realize, okay, this is not for you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Great.
So, okay, Tevia, my next question would be, TCM philosophy associates specific emotions with specific meridians and organ systems. And ancient sciences of TCM and even yoga and Ayurveda have always understood that modern day health concerns transcend from the subtle meridian routes, creating organ system imbalances. So these diseases do have some their deep roots lying in the energetic imbalances that may be happening to us, maybe through the dietary patterns that we follow or the lifestyle that we have. And finally, it starts to show up as physical disease much later than even we can anticipate. So does that mean, or do you think we can conclude it this way, that since Qigong is the practice of regulating Qi or energy flow through the meridians, it is the ultimate healing modality for any kind of health concern?
Yeah, so it's a great question. First, I never would say anything is the ultimate, because that would be assuming that I know everything. I don't know all the different modalities out there, but as far as what I've come across, Qigong Qigong can be used in combination really well with Chinese medicine or Ayurveda, or even some Western medicine. It can be used in combination with these different modalities to create a really complementary sort of self-care. But as far for me, as a basic practice, there is nothing I've found that is better than Qigong. If I found it, I would try it. But I haven't found anything that I do as much and is as effective on a consistent basis for the long term as Qigong is.
Yeah, so I think again it boils down to this concept of fascia that you're saying, because that's the driving force that's taking care of everything that's going on within once you start to work with your fascia. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
Great. So okay, now help me understand, Tevia, this thing. Qigong plays around with the movement of energy using breath, body, and movement as a tool. So how can a common man scientifically connect to this aspect of Qigong and get started with this practice to experience positive transformation for somebody who is completely clueless about what Qigong is, but really want to experience it from that perspective?
Well, I mean, first you need to take a class, whether it's online or in person. Obviously, I'm biased. I recommend White Tiger Qi Gong.
Even I recommend that. I mean, I'm not biased there, but I have experienced what it is. So I definitely recommend that.
Thank you. Yeah. So we have online courses, whitetigerqigong.com. And also we have a free YouTube channel where anybody can watch tons of videos for free. We have lots of lessons there. I think like well over 100 free lessons on
so
YouTube.
I have something to share here. So I just mentioned, like, this shoulder injury that happened a few days back, and I was really not able to sleep at night, and it was like a zombie kind of a situation. I was not even able to do anything else. I was just moving around whole night here and there just to figure out, when the pain settles down. So there was a night I just figured out, okay, let me just try Qigong. I mean, since it's a subtle practice and I'm very used to doing all these movement practices, and yoga I wasn't able to do. So I just opened up one of the Qigong practice on YouTube, since I haven't reached in my course there. So I thought maybe let me just try and practice something that is subtle movement. At least I'll be, that will actually satiate my movement craving. So I did one of the practice. I don't remember which that one was, but I guess I just practiced for about 10 minutes. And after that, within those 10 minutes, I was so relaxed and calm. I mean, for past 10 days, I wasn't able to sleep. And with that 10 minutes of practice, which I just picked up randomly, in that pain just settled me down. And I had a very, good sleep after 10 days, just practicing that 10 minutes of practice. So that's where I actually realized the power of how powerful this is.
Beautiful. I'm really happy to hear that. Yeah. As you can, like you said, you can get tangible results very quickly, like almost immediately. Like you said, only in 10 minutes, you got it.
Yes.
So exactly. That's what I love about this.
Yes. And also to mention that the easier that it looks, it's not that easier. I mean, you really need to involve, as you say, body, mind, breath, everything comes together is where you start to feel that practice.
Yeah, it's the antithesis to like a gym where you go in and you watch your telephone or a TV screen while you're riding on a bicycle. So you're disengaging your mind from your body.
Exactly.
Whereas Qigong is the opposite. You engage your mind and your body. So it becomes a whole different kind of practice. So yes, so it does require that engagement, but that's so healthy, and it has so many neurological benefits from doing that.
But one thing that I realized after doing that practice was you don't have to consciously make an effort to bring all of it together. This practice is designed in such a manner that automatically everything will automatically start to come together.
Yeah, exactly. And especially once you get into a flow state. A flow state is for those who don't know what a flow state is, it's like when you get in the zone where time becomes timeless and you are totally absorbed in your activity, what you're doing. And Qigong is a real pathway to reach a flow state. And flow states are so proven to be so healthy for your brain and also your body. And it's tremendous benefits.
Great. So, okay, Tevia, now help me understand, like, this is a little different question. I would really want to create some awareness around differentiation between fascia and muscles from the context of people who are really deeply into muscle building practices, to the extent that they don't even realize how are they feeling. Like, this craze of high protein and then going and building muscles, and this becomes a vicious cycle for a lot of specifically youngsters. For such kind of a people, what would you advise, from the perspective of working more on fascia rather than working more on muscles to get the same or even better benefits?
Well, I've worked with quite a few people in the bodybuilding world with Qigong. And one of the things that I found that's important if somebody's going to do bodybuilding is to be aware of their tendon strength and they'll, like you said, their fascia strength, not only the muscle belly. So when you do bodybuilding, you're focusing on the muscle belly. And what we found is that people who just do that kind of exercise alone, where they isolate muscle exercises and don't have another practice in addition to that, they often have weak tendons. And the muscle belly can get inflated, but then it can deflate very quickly when they stop that practice. And so their fascia, they need if they're going to do bodybuilding, they need, and I think everybody also needs in addition that a practice to exercise the entire body, the entire fascial matrix. And the kind of movements that they found that fascia likes is these whole body spiralic movements. So it forms like this helix. And so when you have these spiralic movements or these undulations or these dynamic whole body movements, the entire fascial matrix engages and it squeezes out fluids, and you have this fluid exchange where it's like wringing out a towel. Right. Where you wring out the towel and the water goes to the ends and the towel it opens up and the towel is now more absorbent. The fascia is the same way. When we wring out the fascia through these spiralic movements, what we get is this squeezing out of all the dirty fluid and the stagnant energy that's in there. And now we open it up and now it's more absorbent and malleable. And now we get this fluid exchange. We get the fresh blood, fresh oxygenated blood flow in throughout the body. So I think it's really important that anyone who's doing doing any type of weightlifting or weights, be cognizant of that factor, and also strengthen that in addition to their weightlifting practice.
Right. So probably I think that's one of the reasons why now sports science is actually talking a lot about fascia. I mean, that's the only area that you come across this concept. Otherwise, I don't think anybody commonly is talking about this concept of fascia.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true.
Right. So, Tevia, now, moving on to from muscles to yoga. Okay. Do you think there is a synergy between yoga and Qigong? And do you think can these two practices be co-joined or come together to create the benefits of best human potential?
Absolutely. And we have to remember the geographical locations that these two practices are from. So, as you know, in India gave birth to yoga, and China gave birth to Qigong, and India and China pretty much border each other. And so, as I understand, throughout history, they've been actually sharing practices for a long time. I know that yogis came from India into China, shared practices with the Taoists, and it's possible that Taoists traveled over there as well. And I teach a Qigong form called 5-element Qigong. And it's believed that yogis influenced this form of Qigong. It has a lot of yogic-like movements in it. Okay. And I've been told by one of my masters, one of my Taoist masters, who's an old master, who told me that actually there was yogis came down into his lineage, and they shared practices with his lineage, and that was integrated in it. So I believe that these are mutually influenced practices. And I worked with a well-known yoga teacher from Hong Kong, and she created a fusion, what we call Qi-Yo, which is Qigong and yoga fusion, which she did. It's pretty interesting. I like it. And it fuses 5-element Qigong and yoga. And I think you're gonna see a lot more people fusing yoga and Qigong now.
So I am going to be one of them. That's the reason I took up this course as well. So
wonderful.
Someday for sure, yeah.
I'd love to work with you on that.
I would love to work with you as well. So, maybe yes, we'll come up with something on that as well. So
my mother was a yoga teacher when she was young. My mother did, and I also did yoga a lot as I was young, since I was young as well.
Okay. And you mentioned your father was in Qigong, your mother was in yoga, right?
My father did Qigong and yoga every single day.
Wow.
Actually.
Wow. So you definitely have those roots where you understand how it co-joins and comes together for sure.
Yeah, I was raised like that.
Nice. So, but yeah, I mean, because what I realized now that, like, having started yoga and now getting into Qigong, I mean, I think I'm still very novice in figuring out the commonalities or the differences. But one thing that I definitely realized, what differentiates the two is continuous meditative movements in Qigong, which is something which is not, an active part of yoga. So this is where the commonality, that brings two together, like, getting into that vinyasa flow, but in a way how Qigong does it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. Great. So maybe we can have this conversation later, because this is my area of interest for sure, and I'll see how how things happen there. Okay, coming on to corporate people, and this is again my vested interest asking this question, because I also come from a corporate before getting into wellness, and my own condition and my peers' condition, as I realized, spine is the most weakest area for any kind of a corporate person. And I see in my network also a lot of people complaining, hardening spine or back pain or any kind of spinal issues. So do you think corporate people need Qigong more than any other prevalent healing modality in today's times?
Absolutely. I've taught several corporations, actually, Justin, I think I mentioned to you, I taught a 200-person company in India. I taught them online, especially for their back. So what you can find for anyone who's working in the corporate world is that you're going to have improved balance in your body, and you're going to feel much better. Then your emotions are going to be better. You're going to think more clearly. I mean, I worked with a hedge fund manager who manages a $4.5 billion hedge fund, and one decision can be worth $200 million. Then he has to make it on the spot.
Wow.
And so he told me he does my Qigong every single day. And he said he uses it before he makes a big decision, and it helps him make more clear-headed decisions. So then I got another guy, he sold his company for a couple $2 billion, and he nearly killed himself to build his company so big. He was dying of cancer, and he turned to Qigong, healthy eating, and some cutting edge medicine, and he healed himself. And he was the doctors had told him, forget about it, you're dead, you're going to be dead in just like a month or two, and say your goodbyes. But he turned it around, and now he sold his business, and he's just into Qigong and healthy eating, and he's doing great. He's very healthy now again.
No, I'm sure. Yeah, because, that question also actually came up as an experience also, because that's what I realized. It is only when, we are just hitting the nail. I mean, we don't realize it, where are we heading towards, but it's only when things happen, things go wrong, or any kind of spine issues happen, is where we figure out. And then also the kind of modalities that we get into are more of the treatment mode rather than the healing mode.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of the day, to me, it's about, do you want to feel good? Because your body can be heaven or hell.
Exactly.
And do you want clear thinking, clear-headed thinking? You want to be able to make solid decisions, that you're not being interfered with by, excessive emotions. And do you want to enjoy your life, and then be able to share that with others? Because that's going to improve when we're happy with ourselves, and we can love ourselves, and we can care about ourselves, and we feel good with ourselves. Then we can share that with others, and that raises the vibration of the planet.
Exactly.
And that's why I want to reach so many people with this, because I feel like we're going into a time in humanity's history where it's a pivotal moment in history where we can choose to go down this negative rabbit hole, or we can choose to take our health back and improve our lives and help each other, and get out of this rut that we're in right now.
Exactly. I completely vouch for what you've just mentioned, because as I told you about my journey also, I mean, from a hellish conditions in the past, some health conditions, from a place where, not just my body, but my mind also changed. I completely understand what you say. And I believe it's not only about getting those short-term things fixed in the body. It's about feeling good overall, and till the time you are there. It's not about feeling good at one point in time, and the other point in time you're fluctuating with different moods. And it's quite possible. I mean, this is something that even I vouch for. It's like what you do to yourself can actually set the base right for it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right. So, Tevia, I think since we are talking about body and movement and everything, foods definitely, I think, we cannot separate out foods out of this entire category. So, and what keenly got me into this question was that you mentioned that your father had a connection with Monsieur Cauchy, who was the father of macrobiotics. So, did macrobiotic diet have any kind of contribution on your Qigong practice, and or also in shaping up your body, mind, and spirit along your Qigong journey?
Well, I can say that macrobiotics was a huge influence of my life, obviously, because I was born into that world. And the underlying principles of macrobiotics has always remained with me, and that is to eat within balance. And also, I love the concept of eating locally, and eating seasonally. So that is also in harmony with the Taoist principles of harmonizing yourself with nature. And
Right.
so, yeah. Go on.
No, I just wanted to add on. This is so beautiful to see, whether it is Qigong or TCM or yoga or even Ayurveda, all of these ancient modalities have just one message to pass on, be connected with your energy, with your Qi, and whatever brings in that energy, stick to that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a famous saying in macrobiotics: chew your drink and drink your food, that I always took with me. And that was just basically means chew a lot and
Right.
and now they have whole chewing schools. They have a chewing school in Switzerland, and they found that you secrete different enzymes in different parts of your mouth. So to
Exactly.
chew your food thoroughly throughout your mouth that was timeless advice.
So
That
there's a funny something I came across through some of my network. So somebody came across this saying that you just mentioned, like chew your liquids and like whatever it is. So how they anticipated this was like drink. What was that phrase? Tivya? Can you just say that again?
chew your drink and drink your food.
Chew your drink and drink your food. So they literally did that ways, and they ended up having some kind of stomach issues. Now, how they anticipated that was they literally went on by what that phrase meant. How it was actually meant to be understood was that use your, at different parts of the body, wherever your body have certain secretions, like your mouth has certain secretions. So use that. So when you say you're chewing your liquids, it does mean that, you spend some time gargling or spend some time for those juices to get mixed into your foods, or even if it is your solids, make them liquefy them enough so that they get mixed with all those enzymes before they get into your body and start working their own way. So there's a deeper meaning to that chewing factor. And definitely I believe that, like, we need chewing schools. I mean, just going by those phrases literally can do more harm than good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people wolf down their food and they gulp
Yes.
down drinks, which
Right.
is against that whole concept. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Tevia, this is going to be my last question. Why, since, coming from this modality where you understand, and I built up this understanding over years as well, that Qi is the biggest concept when it comes to healing for any kind of health condition. So, and this has been realized and explored by all these ancient modalities, like, global modalities, whether it be yoga, Ayurveda, Qigong, TCM, Macrobiotics, whatever, like they have this common message to pass on. Still, why this concept is, what do you think is so unexplored and unknown in the scientific world?
What do I think is so unexplored
In the scientific world, yes.
in the scientific world about Qi?
Yes.
That's a great question. Well, I would like to see more research done to actually see Qi and measure Qi, and to be able to measure different kinds of Qi. Mm-hmm. That is the part that interests me. So, for example, you can create a yin Qi or yang Qi field around you, okay, through different intentions and breathing techniques and different ways to move. And so I would like to be able to explore how to actually measure that, because now we're in the age of measuring. We have scientific instruments for everything. Exactly. So, and they can see so far into outer space. So let's see how far they can see into the energy that's here. And maybe physics could have it. I mean, if we had some modern Einsteins who could look into it, mm-hmm. That would be interesting to me.
Right.
There has been some scientific experiments trying to look into it that were unsuccessful, but they, like, for example, a guy named John Chang in Indonesia, he could light a light bulb for the scientist, but they couldn't measure it on the electromagnetic frequency scale. Okay. But he could use it enough. There was enough electricity to light the light bulb and actually change the to make the LED light blink and stuff like that. Okay.
So, I mean, again, I'm not very sure where are we in terms of measuring all of that, but I think there is some researchers already, there are researchers on this, like this concept of Krill's camera, which can actually, see the electrical frequencies that a fresh something coming out of the nature stuff has, as compared to something that's very stale or old. Or maybe, this concept of measuring human vibrations, which is like, you are most healthy at a certain vibration, and when that vibration goes low is where all these diseases start to happen to you. Again, I'm not very sure how close or far we are from actually understanding Qi from the measurement perspective, but I think some explorations are definitely on that front.
Absolutely. I'll have to look into that more. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, look into Krillin's camera and human vibration. So this is again one area of interest that happened to me as a part of my studies. But we can actually measure human vibrations now. I'm not very sure what they call it. Maybe I can just drop you a message personally on deeper understanding into this. But I think that can really help understanding the measuring, and that's why I kept this question also. But anyways, okay. So Tevia, just to end the entire thing, help us understand about White Tiger Qi Gong. How can listeners get started? Though you've just mentioned, but what would you suggest is the approach for the people who are interested in learning or people who are interested in doing Qigong at White Tiger Qigong?
Yeah, well, I like I mentioned before, I recommend you can do, if you want to go deep, do an online course. We have master courses and even teacher trainings. We also have online free YouTube videos. And what I'll do is I'll give you a link for all your listeners to download a free ebook on 5-element Qigong, and you can pass that along for your listeners. But yeah, that's what I recommend to do. There's so much Qigong out there. So just find the one that's right for you. The reason I like White Tiger is because it's going to work with the body, breath, and the spirit. It's going to give you a really dynamic movement, but also meditation with deep breathing. And it's very powerful. It's the most, I've studied almost 50 different kinds of styles of Qigong and stuff like that. And these are I've whittled it down to about the 3 most effective forms of Qigong. And I put them into the White Tiger Qigong system. So that's, I've done the homework for you. So if you're interested in longevity and healthy living and living a long, healthy life, then I recommend White Tiger Qigong.
And I vouch for that. I mean, since though I'm not very deep into the studies as of now, I'm just taking my own time and pace to, be on to that path. But whatever I have learned till now, and considering that I had been looking for Qigong learning with an expert, maybe live in my area, but I couldn't find one. The practice at Qigong, what you've developed, I must say, is one of the highest qualities that I've come across, because for various reasons. One, ease of practice. Secondly, the way it co-joins with the scientific understanding of things. I guess that's definitely an edge that you've created in this practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, so for somebody who's actually interested in getting started with the Qigong, I guess the best place is to go to your YouTube channel and start practicing the practices simply, and you can actually feel the difference, like the way I did it with that 10 minutes of practice. So yeah, so okay, Tevia, I think I'm done with my questions. Is there anything that you would want to add on before we end up the session?
Well, I mean, my mission with White Tiger Qigong is to reach 10% of the world's population. And why 10%? Because that's the scientific number for a tipping point. And we want to reach a tipping point in changing human consciousness. And that is to be able to give self-love, self-care. And when you can do that, then you can share that with your friends and family, and it ripples outwards to your community. And I believe, like I mentioned before, we're at a critical, pivotal moment in human history where we need to make a decision. Are we going to live with each other? I think we need to transcend borders, transcend races and nationalities. We need to transcend all this to come together to raise humanity up, to be able to get through this kind of like pandemic. And we're also facing climate catastrophe. And we need to be able to come together as a human race, as one race, to be able to solve these deep issues. And I believe that my contribution is Qigong can help spawn that self-love and that self-care to be able to reach that level. So that's why I'm so driven to share White Tiger Qigong.
Definitely. So and on the ending note, what I would want to say is that it's high time that we start looking beyond the physicality of our beings, like, small little things happening to us, some health conditions happening to us, because the roots do happen at the chi or the energy level. And the more we regulate energy, we are creating a base for a very happy, healthy, and joyous life forever. So thank you so much, Tevia. I think it had been a wonderful conversation with you, and I would really love to have various other conversations with you on specific themed concepts. But this was really a good insight into, what Qigong is and how it helps, and, everything about Qigong. So thank you so much for being there. And yeah, I think we can end up the session right now. And definitely I'll be in touch with you. I'll be looking forward for the gift that you have for our listeners, and then I can just share it across the message that you have for everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thanks
great.
for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tevia.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.